So Farron, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm 19 years old. I study at the University of the Arts London. I study advertising. I'm interested in business. I'm interested in sport, going out, chilling with my friends. I enjoy normal things, I guess. Like I like kind of pop culture. I like art. I like design. I also like people. I think more than anything. I think growing up, like I've always had like different circles of friends, and I've never really focused on like one type of friend, which for me is like made me open-minded to different people and like their viewpoints. So I feel like I'm quite open-minded as well. I also feel like I'm quite practical at the same time. Like I don't like open-mindedness just for the sake of it. I like having an element of practicality. So I might have these thoughts, but I actually want to do something with them. And I think that's where like I've kind of edged towards creativity and like making things. And and when it comes to people, I like focusing on how can we make things for people, hence why I study advertising, and not for the bad, hopefully one day for the good, but there's a lot of bad in advertising as well. But yeah, go on.
So I believe you said you were working on a podcast. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm working on a podcast at the moment, and it's called Collective Connect. And the idea behind the podcast is I want to get young people to come on the podcast, and I want them to share their opinions. And when they share their opinions, I want to just have a conversation with people and get to know what they actually think about things. And then with that conversation, being able to take it somewhere further and build a community, which I'm really interested in because a lot of people have different ideas and views for how the world can be. And I feel like it's about getting these people together in a room and talking about it and then just seeing where it goes. But more than anything, I just want people to share their opinions with me, and young people more than anything.
Okay, so why are young people so important to you?
I think young people are so important to me because young people are the future. Whereas older people, they have wisdom and they have value and they have things they could share with us, which I don't think should be taken for granted as well. I believe older people know things which we don't, which we should learn from. But I feel like we live in a world where there's social media, and with social media, we all have these network communities. So when I'm on social media, 1,000 people, but so do I. So if I share a piece of content with your audience, they see it. And with social media, we're kind of like formed into like these large kind of tribes where it's like there is like standard ways of what's acceptable to put out on social media. And I think that's kind of why there's been this revolt against people actually wanting to go on social media. And I feel like with social media, there's a lot of like fakeness. There's not a lot like of realness, like people not feeling good, like people wanting to aspire to do something big. I feel like social media is kind of creating this like superficial reality and kind of like dramatizing things that it goes against reality and what people are actually experiencing. And I want to build a platform and a community and a podcast which would be based on social media, which deviates from what already exists and what intuitively I think people want.
Okay, so what's your vision for this community?
The vision for the community, I eventually want it to become a community where people can start collaborating together, and people with different specialisms, whether that be in the arts or design or creative, whether that be sciences or geology or mathematics, is about bringing together intellectuals and creatives and strategy and working with partnerships, companies like partnerships, and actually giving a platform for young people to collaborate on projects which matter. One thing that's really funny for me is like you hear this idea like millennials and Gen Z, we want to make an impact. And like I believe we do. In general, I speak to like people my age. Everyone wants to make an impact. Everyone wants to do something which they find meaningful and pursue a life which has meaning to them. But I feel like the degree to which one can do that really depends on the institutions which are in place to make it happen. And I feel like a lot of companies aren't set up to allow people to pursue something which is meaningful to them. I feel like a lot of companies are set up where you become a cog in the machine. And I feel like a lot of the times people don't want that from their lives. So I feel like a lot of big companies are finding problems with hiring younger people. Whereas I feel like a platform for young people to work on projects which actually matter to them, and not just for like the selfish reasons, because they want to have a positive impact. So let's say there is a project on an awareness campaign for climate change, or coming up with a solution in a small country for how you can stop plastic pollution, and then we work as a creative and a strategy team to actually focus on what we can do for the companies and the higher institutions in these countries, and then focus on how we can give young people the opportunity to work on these projects and make it happen. Now obviously it's just starting off with a podcast, you know, you're going to come on and share your opinion, but your opinion would be of value, because I feel like everybody knows more than they like to think. Like everybody. And I feel like when you could sit with someone who would bring that out of you and let you like kind of articulate yourself and get your viewpoint across, it's powerful what I think can be built from it. And I feel like it's just a breath of fresh air from what you usually hear on social media. I want you to go on my Instagram page or my Twitter and just be like, whoa, this is like so real. This is cool. Damn, I want to follow you guys. Do you know what I mean?
So is this podcast like, would you say, is it like I don't know, psychotherapy 101, where you're taking the time to just sit down and just really listen and
yeah, you could say that,
try and bring into fruition what the other person's thinking or feeling?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, well, probably exactly that, actually, because I feel like every individual thing stems from the human mind. Everything that's been built stems from what people think. And I feel like a lot of the institutions which are built sometimes collapse because they don't listen to people below them, right? And I'm not saying, this may seem irrelevant to what I'm about to say, but I feel like the only way to build something of significance is to actually understand what people think and feel, and not just the negative side of it, what they want, what they aspire to, and then building stuff around that. And I feel like we live in a world where it's so hard for people to actually listen, you know, because I feel like there's so much stimulation, there's so much noise, you know, whether that be on your phone, whether it be on the street. You know, they say you see like 1,000 ads a day. You know, live in big cities like London, you see hundreds, maybe thousands of people throughout your day. And it's just like, it could be so overwhelming where you felt like you're not heard. And I feel like everybody aspires to work on these big projects, have these big dreams. They're very idealistic. And it's like, idealism's great, you know? Like, how are you going to build anything of significance without an idea, without good ideas? And it's about people coming on and sharing their ideas and knowing where the idea comes from, you know, because like, you could like logically come up with an idea for what can change the world, but you also got to like understand emotionally kind of where it comes from. And I want to see the passion come out of people. I want people to come on and like really get riled up and like, you know, talk about why they want to do this. And I'd be like, wow, that's awesome, bro. Cool. Now let me share this with my community and see if anyone wants to help. And that's about building like a community where people want to help each other and people are idealistic. And there's nothing wrong with being that. You know, there's nothing wrong with thinking you can change the world. You know, because they say those who are crazy enough to change the world eventually do, you know, and I want people like that on my podcast, you know. And you don't necessarily have to change the world, but everyone changes the world to a certain extent, you know, whether that's your individual life and then you affect the people around you. And I just feel like, go back to your question again, you know, I deviate quite a lot, but what I'm trying to say is I just want people to come on and really express themselves and to be heard and to know that what's a very important point is I want someone to listen to it and be like, wow, they're going through the same thing as me. Wow, another young person actually relates to me. Wow, okay, so I'm not alone. Wow, okay, I can go to these guys and talk to them and I feel like I'm part of something bigger. I feel like I'm part of something which I can actually have faith in, have values in. They understand me because ultimately we're focused on people and the world and merging them together and creating stuff through that. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, so you've already said a lot about what you want from people. You want people with good ideas that really kind of push the boundaries of things, and it's
right.
also a platform where people can sort of allow them to get the best of themselves just sort of shown to the world or pulled out into the world.
I feel like getting the best of yourself a lot of the time, it requires risk. It requires you being on the edge. It requires you may fucking up and saying something stupid.
Yeah.
Right, I believe that's possible, and I want people to like come on and not have to worry like, oh my god, I'm on a radio station.
Okay,
like,
so
it's like you could just be yourself and like talk and take risks and have fun with ideas and let's talk theories and let's come up with something and let's leave something of value at the end. You know what I mean? But sorry, I'll let you carry on.
Okay, so could you describe? Is there a typical person that you're trying to reach?
I
try and attract to sort of come on the podcast.
Yeah, ideally they'd. I mean, it could be anyone. I mean, like I'm pretty open to anyone being on it if they feel like they have a viewpoint. You don't have to be like an intellectual. You don't have to be like, you know, creative. But ideally, I do want people who have a defined kind of, not defined, but have a kind of sense of like they're pursuing meaning. Like they have this feeling that their life is meaningful and they're pursuing it through their own way, whether that be through music, whether that be through science, you know, whether that be through like, you know, arts or photography or film or football, you know, or like, I don't know, anything. Like, could you anything. Like, that could be like being a plumber, you know? Like, I want people who feel like they're pursuing meaning and feel like they're pursuing something higher than themselves, or at least have visions and dreams for it, or see a problem in society, or feel like there's something which could be slightly changed or focused on tackling. So it's broad, it could be anyone, but ideally it would be creative and someone pursuing meaning and someone who has a passion for something. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then...
I mean, you're pretty cool. You should come on it sometime. You're questioning me now, but I'm going to get you on soon. It's Emil, by the way. Emil's awesome. A journalist in my uni. It's good at asking questions, isn't he, guys? Nah, sorry, Emil. Carry on, bro.
So, this is probably my last question.
Right, cool.
But what... When people have come on your podcast and they've sat down and they've spoken to you, is that just it? Is that the only thing they do? Or are you hoping to do something more? Like, what is it that you're hoping to do?
So when I get people who come down on my podcast, ideally I want them, they'll become part of the community. So we'll reach out to them if we have a project which they may be interested working on. And usually to begin with, it's going to be a lot of communications projects. So maybe that's an advertising campaign. Maybe that's coming up with a long form blog post for us. Maybe that's just collaborating with us in any way, but you're basically not forgotten. It's not like I do a podcast with you and it's like, oh, bye, that was fun. Thank you for giving me value, but I'm never going to give you value back. Like, you're part of the community, and we might have meetings, we might sit down, we might come up with ideas for how we could collaborate and make something happen. So there's that. And I'm also trying to build up an ambassador list for this, for Collective Connect. I want people to actually be contributors to the purpose we're trying to serve, which is trying to build a platform for young people to work on projects which matter. And if you come down on the podcast, you can be an ambassador, or you can collaborate with me on a project, and with the content we make, I'll give you content which I'll make, whether that's like motion graphic content, whether that's a link to the podcast where you could share it with your audience as well. So it's not like it's not like I'm making the podcast and I'm releasing it and you can't share it. I mean, you can share it anyway, obviously, through our website or through, you know, social media or through iTunes. You could share it there. But I mean, I'll give you a unique piece of content where you can share it yourself, and then you can share it with your audience, and then share it back to us, and then we grow the community together, and you get your viewpoint out, which I think is important, man. I just feel like in this day and age, man, it's like not enough people are saying what they're feeling or thinking. It's just kind of doing what's right, like being on social media and posting what you know people will like, rather than like posting what you actually want to say. And it's like, I've kind of like started unfollowing people who just clearly post things people like. It's like this kind of like fake engagement, or not really full in engagement, but you do it because it just kind of like, yeah, that's the right thing to do, rather than, is it really the right thing to do? I don't know.
Okay, so there are a number of sort of platforms out there already that allow people to not necessarily collaborate, but they allow them to kind of post freelance content, so like SoundCloud and Medium and various other sites.
Right, cool.
So why is your site different?
I wouldn't say necessarily that my site is in competition with anyone else's. I feel like my site or my community, which I'm building, will eventually go on to work with partnership companies who will help make big things happen. And obviously all of this is saying it in vision. This is still a startup, you know, and I feel like this is different because we focus on people, whereas a lot of the time you'll focus on the craft or what you're doing within that craft rather than the people who that craft essentially serves. So I'm very like focused on the marketplace, but I'm focused on improving the marketplace. And by the marketplace, I mean the current market, which already exists. Where, like, I mean, it's a good question, and it's still something I'm figuring out each day, to be perfectly honest. It's not something I completely know why we're completely different, but based off the knowledge I already have and based off the people I work with, I feel like we can definitely make something that's a lot different. And for me, it's just about building a community, seeing where it goes, man. You know, I don't like taking things too seriously to begin with, you know. Just like take it one step at a time, but we have a vision, an abstract vision for what it could be. But I think over time we'll start developing practical ways of actually achieving it. Hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
No worries, man. Thank you for your time, bro. It's been awesome. And also, guys, if you want to follow us on Collective Connect on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, and Facebook as well, actually. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Farren Khalid. That's FAHRENKHALID. So hit me up if you're interested in coming on. And send us a message if you want to even get like long form content out and you just want to share an idea. We're happy to upload it on our platforms. And more importantly, share it with a friend if you feel like there may be something they're interested in. And I just want you to all know that we can actually make a change, and we're a generation which can get a good message out there and actually build something of significance. And I believe that. So yeah, cheers. Thanks for listening. And thanks for questioning me, Emil. Yeah. Cheers. Awesome. Sweet. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.